girls, welcome back. I am so grateful to dig in today. And I want to introduce you to Cari Kenzie. She is this absolutely incredible soul, and you're about to find out why. I can't wait to dig in today because there's just so much beauty that's coming through in the present time that we can actually talk and speak into about some like dark nights of the soul and things and all those things that were kind of happening in real time. But also, there's so much beauty and wisdom that we both want to bring into this space. But let me introduce you to give you a little bit more background on who Cari is and why I've asked her to come on this space, because she just has so much beauty and wisdom to bring into the space. So she is not just a coach. She is a game changer, and you're about to find out why. She is a survivor of the Boston Marathon bombing. So her story is one of those of deep resilience and so much unyielding strength. And so I can't wait to dig into this with you. This experience, combined with all of her success as an entrepreneur, because she built and sold a multi-million-dollar marketing agency, makes her this force to be reckoned with in this speaking and coaching world. She's an incredible speaker and also an incredible coach. And I can't wait to just dig into that even more. She's got this dynamic energy that truly transforms audiences. And what I love about her, she brings in this really raw honesty along with that wisdom, the insightful strategy. So it's like she's not just speaking, she's actually really igniting change with her words, with the energy she brings into the space. And so I can't wait for you guys to just experience that. She has been featured in Entrepreneur Magazine and Runner's World, and we're about to find out why the two of those actually play a really powerful role in her story and all of the things that she's experienced in this lifetime to date. And she really is this go-to expert for overcoming adversity and, really sparking creativity and driving success. So I'm so excited to dig in today because she really does have this powerful, practical wisdom, but it's infused with this incredible edge that honestly cuts through the BS and really gets to the heart of the challenges. So I'm very excited to introduce to you this incredible woman, this quantum energy healer, intuitive business strategist, and I can't wait to dig in today. So thank you so much, Cari, for being here. I am so grateful to have you in this space.
Oh, hey, beautiful. Thank you so much. This is going to be an incredible conversation.
Yeah, I'm so excited
Yeah.
to dig in. And so let's go to the deep end because I feel like that's
Yeah.
both of our MOs.
Love it.
Yeah, so you survived the Boston Marathon terrorist attack. And so
hmm
like let's start to really dig into, because I know you and I have spoken about this, how this actually became this huge catalyst to your
hmm
spiritual awakening. So can you actually take us back to that moment and maybe
hmm
2 years after that, and kind of what you did to move through this really powerful spiritual awakening, but also I know there was like lots of depth to that, and kind of what you did to get to that other side of like, whoa, I just kind of came out a new human through this experience.
Yeah. I had no idea it was a spiritual awakening at the
Yeah.
time, quite honestly. I mean, this was, running marathons was my stress reliever, which sounds
Mm.
crazy, but,
No, it
owning a
doesn't.
business, it was like, I needed something outside of what I was doing on the everyday.
Yeah.
And so I just started running and found myself in Boston in 2013. I had finished the marathon, not in the way that I had hoped to. And so I ended up in the medical tent just on the other side of the finish line. And it was while I was sitting in there being attended to that I heard this, like, just this blast. And my
Mm.
mind immediately thought, like, oh my God, I didn't realize that that's how they celebrated Patriots Day. I didn't know they set off
Oh,
cannons, right? Because
yeah.
I knew it's a huge holiday in
Yeah.
Boston. Well,
Yeah.
as quickly as that happens, I hear the second boom. But
Mm.
this time everything shakes. I mean, down to it felt like the core of the universe shook. And I knew exactly what was happening just
Yeah.
intuitively. I caught the eyes of another volunteer and it was like, oh my gosh. And like, this is happening. So again, it feels like, things move so slow and so fast all at the same
Mm.
time. And so instantaneously I stand up. It feels like they are all of a sudden bringing in the casualty of limb and the soul deprived bodies, because we just do this like dissociative thing in those moments of those catalytic,
Yeah.
events. And so I look around. I have no idea where my family's at. I walk outside of the tent. I look to my right down Runner's Alley. It's like empty. There's nobody there, but it feels like sunshine. And I look to my left, and all I can see, even as I envision it today, is like chaos and smoke and darkness. And there's a line of yellow jackets, these volunteers, and they start chasing me down the street. They're like, run as fast as you can. I have no idea what's happening. I just turn and I take off and I run. And I don't know how far, I don't know how fast. Now, the real anchor in this moment truly came the following day. So I would eventually find my family and we would make it back to our hotel and we would check in with family and watch what was happening on the news. But kind of continued about the day. The next day, we go down to pick up my items. And we're standing at the end of Boylston Street, kind of overlooking the devastation. And this is all too common of an experience that happens to people. This just happened to be like, I'm going to be in your face and show you what's happening. Reporter comes up behind me, got my finisher's jacket on. He's like, hey, can I ask you some questions? Like, can you tell me where you were at? Can you tell me about your experience? There's a literal voice inside my head, which are the thoughts that we have, right? But this thought comes forward and it's so authoritative and it says, it is not your story to tell. Mm. And so I turned and walked away because to me, somebody had it worse than I did. My family was fine. I was walking away. I wasn't physically injured. And so I carried that momentum with me back home. I went straight back to work the next day, watched the news with the rest of my staff. When they caught the second brother, we shut it off and I went back to work. Like, not as though nothing had happened, right? I ran in tribute and I was determined to be back in Boston the following year to requalify. But I just kept going. And it's because I had to hold it together. I had to, right? I mean, you've got life that's happening around you. I had 3 little kids and a business, and I didn't want to be a burden to anybody else. And quite honestly, again, I wasn't injured. Well, 3, 4, 5 months later, I go from running marathons to not being able to walk upstairs unassisted. And this became then not just the emotional collapse that I propped up with like toothpicks around me, but then it became a physical collapse. And I became debilitatingly ill. I was having seizures standing up. I had ailments that literally nobody could just physical show up manifestations of things and no doctor could figure it out. I went to Mayo Clinic. I was all over the place. Okay. It was in this moment, like over a year later, that I found a internist. Couldn't even tell you what he did, quite honestly. He was a specialist I hadn't seen before. Okay. Run finger through phone book. Haven't seen this guy going. I go in, I sit down. He's checking on my vitals. He's doing all of the things. And he looks at me and he says, are you a runner? And I'm like, well, yeah, why? And he said, because your heart rate's really low. I'm like, well, yeah. So I've heard this before. And he looks at me and he says, look, you're not depressed. I don't have anything that's going to be able to help you. But what I can tell you is you're not depressed because I've never known a runner to be depressed. Now, here's the thing that happened in that moment. He saw me. He looked beyond the exterior. He didn't see anything, the chart, the vitals, anything. He saw me. That was the opening for me. So then we fast forward and I go through, Western medicine and more holistic medicines. And I'm doing this tidal wave of like, I feel better and I'm crashing and I haven't slept in years. And I go to a conference, and at this conference in 2016, I meet a gal. And she says, I'm telling her what's going on. By this point, it's like diagnoses like trading cards, chronic Lyme disease, Hashimoto's, Epstein-Barr, multiple autoimmune conditions. I haven't slept in, at this point, like 3 years. And she says, I know a gal who does a thing. You should call her. I don't care at this point what you do. Like, I'm at the point of mercy, like just whoever, whatever, I'm in because I got to get to the other side of this. And I call her up. I always joke from the stage. Like, she goes, tell me about your childhood. And I was like, I'm not calling you about that. I'm calling you because I have Lyme disease. But what she did in that moment is she made this like amazing connection for me. This connection of how everything is a manifestation of something else. And how when we package up the energy of emotions, they become like caged animals and they will show up in your physical being in order to be addressed, in order to be healed. And that's when I took my deep dive in. And it would take like a couple of years still after that to figure out, oh my gosh, that moment was literally when my life path clashed with my divine purpose. And that was the moment of awakening. And I say awakening because I had been navigating through life in this way of doing the things that everybody else had always done. Like I had a path You do that, you graduate from high school, you go to college, you get married, you have kids, you get the corner office,
Mhm.
right? Working girl to watch that, right? You get the corner office
Mhm.
and you do the, and then you retire and you hang. I had done all the things, but there was always this question that was hanging out inside going like, is this really it?
Mm.
Like, is this really it? And I never allowed myself to answer that question. And so the universe was like, help you out.
Mm. So there's so much here. And
Mm-hmm.
like the first thing that I want to really highlight that I think is so powerful about everything you just said is that your body was speaking the language of your soul when we don't tap into our intuition or we're not
Yes.
letting the whisper be loud enough or we're not letting ourselves hear it, our body will tell the story
Yes.
for us to know because we can no longer ignore when the body is feeling or doing something that's not in complete health or not in complete alignment. And so that is something that I've truly found myself in my own experience is my body is telling the story of my soul
Mm-hmm.
in so many ways. And so it's like we had to go through that experience. You had to go through that experience to suddenly realize, okay, what is my soul really trying to tell me? And I'm so grateful that your path brought you to this woman that reminded you of your divine truth, which is, wait a minute, this is a manifestation. Therefore, I can actually heal this by getting to the root cause of why this is even showing up in the first place.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
would you say that a big part of that experience, because I think sometimes we'll compare and contrast and say, well, compare and contrast and say, well, it's not that bad. And also maybe minimizing your divine purpose and thinking I just need to go through the motions like everyone else tells me to do. Was it a combination of that or was it something else?
Can you repeat the question just because you
Yeah,
cut out?
yeah. So it's
Sorry.
that no, it's like the beautiful thing about like, would you say that like the reason that your body was starting to speak really
Mm-hmm.
loudly to you,
Mm-hmm.
was it because you minimized your trauma in that moment? Was it that plus maybe some of the other stuff that you might have been ignoring?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I always say that was like the drop that overfilled the bucket
Yeah.
because
Yes.
this had been going on over the course of a lifetime. And I have had people, and again, it just takes time to like get that thread to figure out that pattern. Because I would
Yes.
have people ask me, what was the pattern that brought you to that moment in Boston? Like, what was the thing that brought you there? And
Mm,
it was at the core of it, it was invalidation. I
mm,
never honored myself in my experiences. I didn't honor the truth that was efforting to come forward to me. I didn't honor the wisdom that lied within me. I followed the path that had been given to me.
yes.
And that became the detriment. And when you don't listen, like I said, I would literally wake up in the middle of the night with this thought happening. Is this it? Is this it? Every day for the rest of your life, right? And you package that away. It's easy to do because nobody else can see that. And nobody else knows that that thought is happening inside my head. So I
Mm,
can package that up. Well, when it becomes a physical manifestation, we are not
mm,
hiding from that anymore because now is it not only a detriment to me, but I can see that it's a detriment to you because I don't have the ability to show up the way that I feel like I need to show up for you, right, on a daily basis. So that's, I believe, why the soul utilizes that tool to awaken to the wisdom that lies within, because that's the thing that we typically don't ignore. And if I were honest and I go back prior to that, my body had been talking to me for a long freaking time.
mhm.
It just had been.
Yeah. Yeah. And it gets louder and louder and louder. I
Oh,
have a mentor that says, you know, your intuition's going to whisper to you, and then it's going to get louder and louder until you're going to get the brick across the face, and you can't ignore it anymore. And I'm like, you
yeah.
know, she told me that, and I'm like, yeah, that resonates. You know, like
Yep.
I've had several of those where it took the brick across the face for me to finally realize, like, oh my gosh, this is what you're pointing to all along. Of course,
Yes.
but like,
Yes.
it leads us down this really empowering path of suddenly realizing, like, okay, there's something here that I no longer desire to ignore because we can keep ignoring it and then
Mm-hmm.
it might still get louder and louder and louder. But I think it's those moments that really bring us to our knees that have us realize, okay, there's something here that I need to explore. So if you're listening to this and you're starting to experience physical manifestations in any way, I want you to really tune into what she's saying here, which was the idea of like she was experiencing this even beforehand in a more
Mhm.
subtle way. And then it started getting louder and louder. So I would love for you to, Carrie, now to kind of walk us through how did you end up kind of relieving yourself of that physical pain? Where there's certain exercises you did, or kind of walk us down that path to where you are today? What did that journey look like?
It was very intuitively led. So I would say gifted wise. That was the first thing that I really had to tap into and understand. And the gentleman who said in that moment and saw me in that moment opened that ability for me,
Mm,
where I started to sense and feel or follow the signs, as we would say, right? So if I would hear something 3 times, I'd go, oh, I should follow that path and I should
mm,
go and I should check that out. And that's what I did in order to aid in that physical healing. Now, here's what would happen though is like you can get the physical healing of the symptom, but that symptom healing is only going to subside for a period of time.
yes.
And that symptom, it may have started in a shoulder,
Mm,
or at one point, I had bruising down both arms that looked like I was an 85-year-old that just got in a fight. No explanation,
yeah.
nothing. Okay. Now that symptom would go away and you'd feel like, oh, okay, that feels better. But that energy is just trapped and traveling within. So then it would pop
Mhm,
up somewhere else. Okay. So
mhm,
I would go through this journey over the course of a couple of years. It took me, now I did checked my diet, went paleo, did all the supplements, and got very clean in the way that I was eating. I was exercising in a way that honored my body. I wasn't running or pushing myself to the extremes like I had been doing before. But the flip came. The flip
mm,
came when I understood that connection between the mind, the energy, the spirit, the consciousness, and the body.
mhm,
That's when things flipped for me. And it's because when I would have, and to this day, if I have a physical manifestation of something that's happening in me, and it can be as easy as I slept really well last night and I'm exhausted today,
mhm,
then I check in with that and I go, okay, so what is happening in my world? What are the experiences, the conversations, things that are happening around me and with me? And what do I need to check in there?
mhm,
And I would begin to get really curious. Okay.
mhm,
So I learned to take ownership of all the experiences that I was having in this way, where I'd have a conversation, something would trigger me. I went to get a treatment in Wisconsin, where I would go, got a treatment. Traditionally, I'd get the treatment. 2 days later, I'd feel a little bit sick. I'd get better. Two
mhm,
days later, I got sick. I didn't get better.
mhm,
Okay. So then I started asking the questions like, what's happening around me? Because, well, isn't that really interesting? Like, it's interesting that this thing is showing up. I get
yeah.
curious. I figure out what's happening in life around me. And
Mhm,
then I follow that mind map back to the source. And it could
mm,
lead me back into childhood. And very often, quite honestly, it does. It'll
mhm,
lead me back into childhood, and I will figure out the emotion that's trapped. I will figure out the pattern that's being held in place and what it is that is arising to the surface in this moment to be healed.
yes.
I then shift it energetically. I shift it within the subconscious mind. And this is what I do with clients. It's like, what is that pattern? What is that energy? What is the thing that is creating this to manifest this way in your life, whether it be physically or in the experiences that you're having? Let's
Mm,
figure out that pattern. Let's shift it subconsciously, shift the energy, release what's being held so that we can bring something new in. I
yes.
had insomnia that took 5 prescription sleep medications to go to sleep at night, 5. And it was gone overnight
Yes.
because of that one experience where I went to Wisconsin. I had this treatment, didn't go well. And I was like, what the heck is getting in the way of this? Everything
Mhm,
shifted. That's the kind of power we have. And I think that's the thing that people don't truly understand or allow themselves to have an openness or an awareness to go, oh, you mean I can shift this like now?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's so powerful that you're speaking into a lot of times we will treat the symptom, which is why it
Mm-hmm.
continues to come back,
Yeah.
versus going to the source, going to the root. Why is this showing up and manifesting in my body in the first place? Versus let me have it not itch for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of saying, well, why is it itching in the first place?
Yeah.
what part of me is wanting to just scratch it? What is that? What is that coming from? And so it's really getting to the bottom of why is this even manifesting in my body? And so what I think is so powerful is that that's exactly what you were just speaking into. It's been in my own experience too, is when I go to the root of something,
Hmm.
I uproot it, suddenly it's not there. Nosebleeds. I used to get those all the time. And so then for me, what I do too is I will actually, place my hand over it and say, and get curious and say, what
Yeah.
message do you have for me? Like,
Yeah.
what are you trying to teach me? And for me, it's always been about that self-love. And I think about, I used to have them when I was younger, right? And that was like those moments in time where I just needed more love in those moments. And so it's like, oh, I can amplify my self-love. Or is there a moment in time that I need to go back to that I felt like I was stripped away of the love? And
Hmm.
so for me, it was going back. I had an abusive nanny. I had to go back and really heal those wounds, the fears, the scares, the scarcity of love, that type
Hmm.
of thing too. I had to go back and really take a look at that and release it. And I think somatic releasing can be really powerful too. We were just
Hmm.
talking about how you just did a somatic release last week about how to just
Yes.
kind of get underneath whatever was coming through, where sometimes we don't know what's coming through, and that's okay. Sometimes we don't
Hmm.
have to know, but it is really powerful to us for us to uproot it. And so I would love for you to kind of speak into even like the somatic releasing that you do, like because I do something very similar where it's like screaming, punching the pillow, just moving that energy. Sometimes we don't have to know what we're moving to
Hmm.
actually uproot it and release it from the body. And a somatic way of doing that is a really powerful healing modality too.
Yeah. Yeah. Screaming is huge.
Yeah.
That is one because it gets that energy where it, and you'll feel it underneath. I
Yeah.
don't, where you just feel like had the experience recently where it's like, I just need to break something. I don't
Yes.
know
Totally.
why, but I
Yeah.
literally just need to break something.
Yes.
Right. And so I
Yes.
will go and I will break something, or I will
Yes.
go and I will scream at the top of my lungs until I lose my freaking voice. Right. Because, and I know that this is what needs to be released. Now, here's the key. And you can do this. I do this in the bathtub
Mhm.
where I will hit a particular tone that taps into my heart that releases sadness, that
Ooh.
releases grief. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I just allow that to come up and out of me. The
Yeah.
key in it is say you're going, let's just use an everyday experience for somebody. If you go and you get a massage,
Hmm.
or if you go and you have somebody who works the muscles because you're like, man, I'm super tight here, here, or here. Okay. And you go in and they're massaging you. If you open your awareness and allow the thoughts to just come up and to and through you, it will literally show you what's being held in that
Yes.
space in that moment. And so doing this kind of work, one, yes, it allows it to be released from the body, but it also opens that cavern into the mind and into the consciousness in order to be able to see what is the energy that's sitting behind this emotion that needs to be healed. I love somatic release. I think it's amazing, but I think it also just is like it creates an open doorway
Yeah.
to be able to see the things that need to happen in the mind. And this is where we kind of get into that quantum physics side of things,
Hmm.
because from a quantum physics standpoint, when we look at everything as energy, because it all is, I
Hmm.
am, you are, the desk is, this microphone, the thoughts, the words, it's all just energy.
Yep.
So, in that, the only way to shift or change anything physically is to shift it energetically, is to
Hmm.
come at it from kind of this top down view and to understand what is being held in those spaces, heal those spaces, and you heal that physical being. But I
Yes.
love that kind of like, oh, what are the other ways we have the opportunity to be able to move some of this energy out of the way to see the opportunity to heal the mind and that subconscious limitation?
Yes. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what makes these breakthroughs so powerful when we think about the way that you show up for your clients, the way that I show up for my clients as well. So much of it has to do with healing what's in the way of what you want. Because
Yes.
it's like we could want the thing and
Yeah.
want it, and it's operating on this energetic frequency, and we're here and we don't know why we're doing all the right things. We're following a business strategy, but we forget sometimes a lot of people forget about the energy piece that it's like,
Yeah.
well, what's weighing you down that needs to be actually uprooted and released through all of
Yes.
these different modalities so that you can rise to the energetic frequency of what it is you're wanting to manifest, that quantum physics piece as well, like you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
how important it is to lean in and uproot the stuff that's weighing us down. It's a
Yeah.
huge part of business that a lot of people don't think about. And it's why people reach that ceiling or they reach
Yeah.
that level where they're like, I guess I'll just move on to the next thing, or I guess this isn't it, or this is as good as it gets. It's like, no, actually, that's your limitation. You're just
Mm-hmm.
reaching the wall. And the wall is actually like, it's quite literally telling you you are at your latest and greatest breakthrough. You are
Yeah.
hitting the wall that you're meant to break down to get beyond that by healing. Why do I have this wall in the first place?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I a
I think,
thousand percent agree. It's interesting. I'm in the process of writing my book,
yes.
and I was like thinking about that even this morning. We talk about that manifesting side of thing and that desire, right?
Yes.
And how it is. I mean, I know when we go, to buy a car and it's like, ooh, I really get the idea of this car in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the thing that I'm going to go after. And so all of a sudden you see that car everywhere, right? And it's because is it energetically aligning you with that car? So now that car is coming into your periphery and you're seeing it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I go, well, that's an interesting concept because then if it is that I am working to manifest that car and I'm not seeing that car anywhere,
Mm.
then what is it that's getting in my way energetically that's not allowing me the opportunity to be able to see that? And you can think that with a car, but also think that in the realm of business, right? If
Yes.
I'm looking to get to that next level and I'm not connecting with, seeing, networking with the people at that level, I'm only connecting with and seeing and networking with people at this level because
Mm-hmm.
I can't find them, then you're
Mm-hmm.
energetically maybe not in that alignment to be
Yeah.
able to see and attract them. Just thought it was
Yes.
a fascinating way to kind of look at that energy and go, okay, here's a practically think about it in that way.
Yes. Yes. You know
Yeah.
what's really cool? I got this download recently about um how things manifest and how I've noticed. So, for instance, I am one of those people that I usually stick around the same weight. Like I just always have. And I thought about how to translate this into making money. And I'm
Ooh.
like, okay, so here's this thing. I'm always this weight. Granted, not when I'm pregnant, right? But I'm always this weight.
Yeah.
And it's because I identify as a healthy person. So even when I have, like, I'm not one of those people that eats clean all the time. Like, I
Yeah.
love having like incredible meals. I enjoy food. I love eating healthy. I love eating chocolate. I love eating queso. I love all the things, right? So it's like, and for me, I notice I do things that almost counteract when I'm doing like I'm having the night where I have like a really extravagant meal and it feels so good. And then the next day or that night, I'm like, I want to go for a walk or I want to do, and it's like, so that's kind of how the energy
Mhm.
works when we're identifying as someone who's like, I'm bringing in this amount of money, or this is what I'm kind of like energetically in tune with. We
Yeah.
actually shift our actions based on what we identify with energetically as well.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that's really powerful. It's like when I think about my weight, I shift my actions because I'm energetically attuned to that. I'm aligning with the right people, right? You think about business or money. It's like because I'm energetically attuned to making this
Yep.
amount or meeting these people or feels like I'm in alignment with, it suddenly happens because I'm just energetically taking myself to
Hmm.
those places. I'm doing actions that are in alignment with it. And so
Yeah.
I just that came to me recently where I was like, that's so interesting to think about how success is really energy and how making money is energy and how be having your dream body is energy and having, all these things that we desire. It's
Hmm.
all possible. It's all just energy, exactly as you were saying.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it was cool. It was
Yeah.
like a really interesting download.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I think is so powerful that you were talking about too is like through this really intense spiritual awakening, I
Hmm.
love when you said it woke me up to my divine purpose. Like we're
Hmm.
going to have those moments where it's almost like we're completely brought to our knees. It's the phoenix rising, everything is burning down to ashes. It feels like complete fucking chaos. And then all of a sudden you're like, I can fly. Oh my God, I've got wings. I'm like, like, it's like you're walking out of the fire with so much energy and
Yeah.
how it brought you into that divine purpose. So, what would you say it kind of woke you up to your divine purpose being on this planet? I feel like you're really waking up humanity to truth, but speak to us a little bit more about how it really woke you up to that divine purpose that you have here. And I know it changes, it can change, but just
Yeah.
how it really woke you up to, oh, I'm here to do something a lot bigger.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So here's the thing I will say to that before I even dive into the question. So if you think that that Phoenix rising happens once in a lifetime,
No, it
like,
happened to me
can
last
we
week.
just be clear about this? Those
Yeah.
towers will crumble and they'll
Yes.
crumble in the craziest, most amazing, if you allow it to be
Yeah.
ways. And
Yeah.
here's what I would say to that before I dive into my side of it
Mhm.
is that because I recently had the towers come crumbling back down.
Yeah, same.
Okay. And the fascinating thing in that is I remember sitting in the bathtub and asking, literally going, why is everything flipping upside down?
Mhm.
And I immediately got back, oh, honey, it's not flipping upside down. The only reason you're disoriented is because it's finally right sided. And
I
I
got
was
body
like,
chills. I got body chills
what?
for you on that.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This then actually amplifies the divine purpose, the
Mm,
awakening that I am here for.
yes.
So it started, I knew that it started from a healing place. It started from understanding that we are so much more powerful than we allow or give ourselves credit for. And it came from my own healing. When
Mm,
I saw not just the healing that happened within me, when I could shift insomnia overnight, but
yeah.
I saw how that healing, the healing that I do in me, would instantaneously shift the grief, the sorrow, the shame, the health of my children. I
Mm,
was like, I have to do this. I
yeah.
have to do this. And it has transformed over time. And
Yeah.
so it stemmed into trauma. It still sits in that realm because I have a huge heart for those that I say are caught in the ripple that
Mm,
don't fit an identification or a pre-qualification.
mm,
And this has really amplified into the work that I do,
mhm.
meaning that I am really on a mission to awaken people to their own strength and their own foundation of their own being. In doing so, we are releasing the pre-described identities and the pre-qualifications that we place around ourselves or our experiences that deny our truth. And when we do that, we have the opportunity to heal because we can bring voice to who we are. We can bring voice to our experiences, and we have the opportunity then to share them. And when we
Mm,
share them, it creates relatability and it gives somebody else the opportunity to see themselves in your story and
yes.
go, I am not crazy. I
Mm,
can change. I can shift. Just because he didn't cheat doesn't mean I'm not happy. Just
mm,
because I wasn't impacted in that school shooting because I wasn't in the school doesn't mean that I wasn't affected, doesn't mean that there isn't something for me to heal. And I think in doing that, that's where we're really going to start shifting the collective and we're going to start healing the generations and the generational injury that has been sitting for such a long period of time.
mm. So true. I just got body chills for you that entire time. And what I think is so powerful that you were speaking into, as well as you were like, let me answer this question by first saying, we will experience many Phoenix Rising moments over and over and over again. And I think that's what's really incredible. And I think I really want to take the pressure off of people who think I have to have one divine purpose for being here, because I think
No.
I thought that for a very long time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it has to be one. And oh, no, like for me, when I was younger, I was like, I want to be a singer. And then it was like, uh-oh, I've missed the window because I'm 14 and I'm too old to be a singer now, right? And it's like, for
Yeah.
some reason, there's like a cap. Like, you got to be like 7 and like making it in the singing industry, was the thought that I had at the moment, and or at that time when I was younger. And so it was really wild to think like, oh, I missed my window. It's like, no, wait, we wake up to multiple divine purposes over and over and over again. And as you're really leaning into this one, it's going to take you to your next one. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
take you to your next one. It's going to add, you're going to add more things to it, add it, fuel it, build it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I think is so empowering about, just being open to things coming right side up and then shifting again to being even more right side up and
Mm-hmm.
shifting again to being even more right side up, because we can't get to the highest level. It's almost like I don't know that we'd really be able to handle all of that right at once. And so it's like getting you to the next thing that your soul desires most in this moment, and then being open to the next thing, and knowing that there is no truth. It's our truth in the moment, and it could shift
Mm-hmm.
in any moment, right? And so that's what I think is so empowering about everything you were just speaking into, is it's like, let's own our truths even if no one else agrees with them, or even if
Yeah.
no one else sees it from my perspective. It still gets to be my truth. I was still impacted in some way. I still desire to speak it out loud. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think there's so much power in really owning our truth regardless of what anyone else thinks.
Yeah. Well, it's key. And like
Yeah.
you said, I mean, you mentioned it in the beginning, and this may have even been before we hopped on the call, but everything goes back to self-love.
Yeah.
Everything goes back to the ability that we have to 100% count on, trust, love self.
Yes.
I think that truly is what we're awakening to consistently over and over and over again. And I think the universe only places the things, your soul only opens to the capacity that you have the ability to be able to see in that moment.
Yes.
Because I will tell you, I have, and this I think is frustrating for people too. For me, it'd be like, okay, I have dug into Boston. I have navigated through the birth of my stillborn child. I have had those conversations. Like, seriously, do I have to go back? Yes, because here's why. You had the opportunity, I had the opportunity to see this facet of what was happening. And I got to tell you what, each and every time that memory or that trigger or something comes forward, I have the opportunity to see another piece of that disco ball. I have an ability to see another facet of what was happening. And every freaking time I do, the more beautiful it gets, if you can imagine. That's how it happens. Like,
Yeah.
we have to get through the muck, all of the ugh that sits on top to get down to the piece and go, oh, I
Mm.
really truly created that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I would get to the other side of that. I trusted my ability to be able to walk that walk.
Mm.
That is freaking cool.
Yes. Yes. One of my healers speaks about she was talking about how even these like horrible terrible things that happen, it's
Mm-hmm.
bringing more compassion into the world. The
Always.
reason these happen, it's like these souls are like, wait, I want to volunteer, I want to bring more compassion into the world, right? And so it's like from a soul level, it's like thinking about it even a little bit as broad as it gets. It's like why these things happen, it's bringing more compassion into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it takes a lot of healing to get to a level of really being able to wrap your brain around that and to not discount how you feel in the
Of
moment.
course. Of course.
Yeah. To get to that level of being like, why the fuck did that happen in the first place?
Oh yeah. Well, that's why I
Yeah.
say, like, it takes that, like, I visited it. I went back into it. I
Yeah.
looked at it. I had the conversation around it. I did healing around it. I mean, it's gotten to the point for me because I understand the work and I understand the level of healing that can happen when we take that same amount of bravery that brought us through the moment to begin with, to take a look back at the moment, to
Mhm.
go, you know what? This is going to hurt a little bit, but it's okay because I know on the other side of this, there's tremendous healing. And you're right. It is. It is simply to awaken love and to bring compassion.
Mhm.
Every single one of these moments. But damn it, is it hard in those situations to be able to see that? I mean, our community is grappling with it now because of a school shooting that happened 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
And so when you sit in that, and it's like, you know what? Honor every single emotion you have, honor every single experience because it's valid and it's worthy. And you get to
Yes.
have it. And it
Yeah.
deserves to be moved and it deserves to be expressed in a healthy and a powerful way.
Mhm.
And then when that releases, when you go into the corner and you scream your bloody head off as much as you possibly can, you're going to have something come forward, like a little memory, something. And if you
Mhm.
can get curious about it, if you can allow yourself in a safe space, you have to find in times, and I did, and this is the space I hold for the people I work with, is to
Mhm.
find that safe container where you have the ability to express that and they can
Yes.
hold that for
Yes.
you and
Yes.
help you navigate through it to pull those freaking roots out so that you can elevate into everything that it is you're desiring to attract. For me at that time, all I wanted to do was get better. That was it. But I was so hell bent on not being sick the rest of my life
Mhm.
that I was going to do it.
Mhm.
And sometimes that's what it takes. I call it a fourth quarter goal. Like,
Mm.
you got to have that fourth quarter goal. And then you've got the ability to go, fuck it, I'm going back in.
Yes, the stamina where you're like, okay, that's it. This is it, baby. I'm going in. Yeah. One of my mentors, Stephen Jaggers, who was on an episode right before yours, He talks about how numbing is an active process. I think a lot of
Yeah.
times we think, oh, if I just shove it in a corner, it won't do anything. That's an active process. It's
Hmm.
taking so much of your energy and bandwidth when you numb it and put it
Yeah.
to the side, which is why, yes, sometimes looking at those things can feel really scary or kind of take us into like an emotional experience. But what you're actually doing is freeing yourself from it.
Yeah.
But to your point, it's so important to go to a space where you can actually really be held in it and
Yeah.
feel safe going there.
Yeah.
Because that is of the utmost importance is finding a safe space to actually go there, release it, and get to the other side of it. It's really,
Yeah.
really empowering when you can find that healer that's going to take you there to really free you from what's been holding you back and what you've been actively numbing.
Yeah. 1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
let's go even more woo.
Oh,
Like I
yes.
love it.
Let's go.
Yes. So when you think about, so this next race that you did was that Boston qualifier in 2022. You knew I was going to go there.
Yeah.
And you felt yourself spiritually cross over. And I want us
Yeah.
to dig into this because this is so powerful and you manifested this for a reason,
Oh,
for a
yeah.
spiritual awakening to maybe bring back something beautiful. Of course you did. So please bring us back to that moment when you felt like how did it feel and why do you think that it happened?
Okay. This is absolutely this probably it's not the craziest experience. It feels like one of the craziest experiences that I've had. Okay.
Yeah.
So I did a marathon at the end of 2022.
Mhm.
And the reason I did this, I trained, had like my training was freaking amazing all the way up into this point, and it was called the Last Chance Boston Qualifier. And the reason I was at that in that moment at that race was because I was going to be in Boston for the 10-year anniversary. That
Mm,
was my intention. And I had set that out. I had trained, everything was perfect up until the night before.
mm,
Now, the night before, I like my muscles were tighter than they usually were. And so I'm like doing the things and rolling them out. But I noticed I had this awareness of like, this doesn't feel quite right. I typically don't have this. I show up the next day and I start the race. Now, this race is a loop race. I've never raced a loop race before, and they're not fun. It's like you're running around a circle
mhm.
in order to complete the marathon.
Yeah,
You're
that's a lot.
running 26 miles, dude. I want some scenery. Like,
Yeah,
you got
for
to
sure.
distract me out of this.
Yeah.
Okay. No,
Uh-huh.
this was purely intentional. Thank you, universe and soul, for doing this. So,
Yeah.
so I take off on this race. And what happened was the first loop. Now, I had run this the day before, mind you. Okay. So the first loop that we do, we kind of go down this hill and we go over this wooden pedestrian bridge. Okay. As we're going over this wooden pedestrian bridge, it's like a trampoline that you swear is going to go out from underneath you.
Mm-hmm.
You're hitting it, and it's like you feel like the whole thing is like it's like not there anymore. And
Yeah.
people were making comments about this. And I heard
Yeah.
the pace guide go, "It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. It's totally safe. We're just hitting the same cadence, same time." So it's kind of like the trampoline effect.
Hmm.
Okay, cool, right? So we run up the hill and we come around. And so we are doing this loop. I get to, I think I want to say it's like the third loop. No, actually the second loop. I'm like, did I bring the wrong tennis shoes? Because you get different tennis shoes for different lengths of
Hmm.
races. Okay. So I look down, I'm like, nope, those are the right tennis shoes, but my feet are really hurting. I keep running. Next thing you know, my legs are cramping up. Keep
Mm.
running. Next one, my lower back is cramping up. And I'm like, what the actual heck is going on here? Okay. In my mind, I have this voice that is repeating the last the last finish line of a marathon I ever did was Boston 2013.
Mm.
And it felt like it needed to be spoken. Okay. So keep running, keep running. I get to lap 7. There are 8 total laps on this deal. I get to lap 7. I have pulled off the side yet again, chatting with my girlfriend. And I'm like, I don't know my whole body. I don't even understand what's happening. Okay. So I take off running and I can feel everything just like everything's just going downhill. I'm getting slower. Go around, hit 8. Here's what happens at lap 8. Lap 8, I see the last pace gal pass me. I have to keep up with her in order to qualify. Look at my girlfriend and I'm like, I have to do this. I take off running. And as soon as I hit probably like 0.2 miles around this loop, I have an out of body experience. And I say that because I become the witness to what it is that I'm doing. And as that witness, I am watching myself run this marathon. And at some point, it actually feels like I am energetically being pushed. So if you've ever run and you feel like somebody pushes you from behind and you do the with your feet, this is what's happening. I started to lose, the first thing I lost was started to lose my vision. So I started to have like different things float in front of me, and my vision was becoming very blurred. Do I stop? No, I don't stop. I keep going because this is just who I am and what I do. I mean, most people at this point would be like, what the hell's wrong with you? Right? Would you not pull over, girlfriend? No. She keeps going. I'm determined. So I am witnessing this. I am losing my sight. I continue to run. I then start losing my hearing. Oof. And I collapse. And I think I'm like a half mile away, maybe at this point, and I collapse. And the next part of it gets a little bit fuzzy for me. It's been filled in by other people, but gal came up next to me. She's like, I'm not finishing this race until you finish this race. Like, I'm helping you out, type of thing. I end up collapsing 3 total times before I finish, because they have to finish on your own 2 feet. I cross the finish line. I don't remember crossing the finish line. The next thing I remember is a dark tunnel. And eventually coming back to, I mean, there was no connection between, I had already dissociated. I was already witnessing what was happening in my physical being. My physical being was like on a trail of its own. And I'm spiritually witnessing all of this, probably up there questioning, like, what the hell's wrong with you, girl? Right. I get across the finish line, and it becomes like this complete detached moment. It had taken me a while to figure that piece out. I was triggered by the bridge. That's instantaneously what had happened. I was triggered by the bridge because it reminded me of the universe shaking down to the core. So this is why that last finish line I crossed was happening in my mind. I also needed to be witnessed. Don't know why. In that last half mile, that was the one gal I told that to. And I think that's what helped me to be able to cross. But I think it was in the crossing. I had been on a path, and I had been in purpose, but I had been in a dissociative purpose. And when I say a dissociative purpose, I spiritually, energetically knew purpose. There was a density and a physicality that I was still attached to that wasn't allowing me to really be able to move forward in that purpose. And in those moments in which you cross over, it's a conversation. I don't know the conversation. I don't have that recollection as some do of like, yes, I was sitting and I was having this conversation and this is what we talked about. I don't have that. For me, it's more of a energetic feeling, but it was this is what I am here to do. Remove me from the equation and allow whatever needs to come through me to become me. And that is like when I am actually getting in this very particular moment in the way that it's being said, because I've never had it come through in that way before, but I can definitely and so solidly see that that's the shift that was awakening and that was happening. And since then, that's the towers that crumbled.
Yes.
The towers that crumbled were the ones that were holding me to the physical density that wasn't allowing the spiritual aspect of me to be that which it needs to be.
Yeah.
I think I might cry. Thank you. Wow. Yeah.
Powerful.
It is really powerful. And you know what's really interesting about that?
Yeah.
Is I have looked at that moment. I mean, I instantaneously afterwards, I got in the van with my girlfriend and instantaneously started unpacking
Mm-hmm.
the pattern and the trigger and the lessons. And it was that piece that was like, gosh, what was that? And I've had little inklings of it
Mm-hmm.
come through. This is something that I think, gosh, if people could walk away with anything out of our conversation, which there's so many amazing things,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you just have to allow space.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just have to put it out with an open hand and be like, what was that?
Mm-hmm.
What was that? And not fight too hard to find it. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think in the fighting, we actually push it away,
Mm-hmm.
right? We don't, because then I'm judging it and I'm trying to depict it. And I've got a feeling of what it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can come to it with just this, like, what was that? And let it be, man, the effect it has when it just comes through. You'll have it in those moments when it's just silent in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, that's what it was.
Yes.
That's a beauty and a gift that you have the opportunity to give yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's just in providing yourself space.
Yes. That holding of the space is one of the most powerful. For me, it's like as well, like hold when someone can hold space
Yeah.
and be okay with the silence and let me process. And for me to hold the space myself too, to
Mm-hmm.
just say like whatever's meant to come through, I'm open. Let it come to me if I'm ready to receive it.
Yeah.
And some of my most powerful downloads and most like, oh my gosh, aha moments
Mm.
have come in from being in spaces like this, working with coaches, working with mentors who are powerful at just holding space.
Mm.
I think that's something we could do more as a collective is like when you see someone who's in a process,
Yeah.
crying, moving, anger, whatever that is, instead of filling the silence
Mm-hmm.
and making it about ourselves, to just witness and hold that space. And maybe if you can tell that they feel comfortable holding them without saying anything. I do this with my child where it's like, I know when I first became a parent, I was like trying to rationalize him out of his tantrum. And I'm like, what am I doing? And then I realized when I would just sit next to him and just touch him, just hold him, or maybe he doesn't want to in the moment, just feeling into that, letting whatever is meant to unfold be okay, like just holding that space, it's gone in 2 minutes
Yeah.
versus like, wait, you're fine, whatever that is that we try to do or I tried to do when I was first
Mm-hmm.
learning to parent.
Mm-hmm.
When I could just hold that space, it was like, I mean, someone told me, and I'm like, this is so true. The feeling is the healing.
Yeah.
When we can let ourselves feel it, you're healing it in real time. And sometimes you don't have to know what you're healing.
Mm-hmm.
Just give yourself that spaciousness to heal or, you know, hire a mentor, a
Yeah.
therapist, coach, whatever feels intuitively aligned with you that
Yeah.
can just really just hold that space.
Yeah.
Powerful.
It is. Yeah. It very much is. And you'll know too.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'll know when you connect with somebody, you'll energetically feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, yeah, this is a safe space. This is a container. I have the ability to just be in this moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that the best? Where you're like, I can label myself as batshit crazy right now, and I am okay with it. I'm just going to let all the layers fall away. And then I'm going to get to what's actually at the bottom of it because it's not crazy. It's me
Yeah.
processing and it's me actually getting to what's actually underneath all of the things that I'm saying and all of the processing and the anger and the sadness and all the
Mm-hmm.
stuff I'm moving. All of a sudden, like you were saying, that core memory resurfaces and you're like, I didn't even know that was living there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Powerful.
It is powerful. And you're right. I mean, it's the greatest gift that we have the opportunity to give ourselves is just to hold the space for ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and to allow without judgment whatever feeling, whatever emotion, whatever thought, whatever memory wants to come up,
Mm.
and just allow it to be,
Mm.
and to be in acceptance. It's a
Yes.
gift and it's a practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's both. I laugh because I know when I'm in the practice, I'm like, what is this? I just want to find the other side, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and then I'm like, oh yeah, there's a purpose for this. Like, just let it be. The more I resist, the more it persists, is like the
Yep.
saying that I find myself, being in. And then I'm like, okay, what if I just saw this through the lens of love? What if I
Yeah.
stopped trying to push it away and making it wrong? What if I
Mhm.
actually looked at this with love? And I'm telling you, it dissolves so much more quickly when I just look at it through love. I'm like, oh, whoa, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
What a blessing to, even though I know physically that must have been a really intense
Mhm.
experience, but the blessing to have been able to go to that other side to
Yeah.
receive the wisdom, the planted seeds, everything that you needed so that when you came back and you came to, you really actually started remembering what was actually true for you.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you say that too, because it is just a remembering.
Yes.
Like everything is already there, it's already innate within all of us. All of this gifted ability to be able to see and to witness and to heal and to understand and to know and to have those insights and those aha moments, like it all sits within each and every one of us, right? It's just that sometimes we need to remember.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was an absolutely just an amazing gift. But every moment of my life has been an amazing gift. I mean, there's been definite dark nights happening, and
Mm.
crazy experiences that have brought me to my knees on more than one
Yes.
occasion,
God,
right?
me too.
But I believe that every single one of those, every single decision that has ever been made, and I say this consistently, is simply just a beautiful reflection of who you're destined to be.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes.
That's it. So if we can look at it through that lens and be like, okay, so got to find the beauty to understand the destiny.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
magic in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, wow. I feel like I'm just sitting on the couch with you and I'm just like, this
I
is like,
know.
I could talk to you forever. And
Yeah.
like, I'm so blessed that you're in my life, that we get to have these in-depth conversations, and
So
that
good.
everyone got to join us today for this one, this incredible peeling back of the layers, and knowing that it's not this like total uphill journey. It's like, it's the up and the down and the highs and the lows, and all of it has this incredible purpose.
Yeah.
And so I'm just so grateful for you shedding light on like, there is a reason for all of it. And
Hmm.
there's so much beauty and freedom that unfolds when we open palm it and we
Yeah.
start to say, like, you know what? Thank you. I want to understand this, and I'm open to understanding this if I'm ready to fully be for it to reveal itself.
Yeah.
So thank you so
Oh my
much.
gosh. Thank you.
I am
What an
positive that
amazing
people,
gift.
yes, I am positive that people are going to want to connect with you. So where are you hanging out? Where can people connect with you?
My website is a great place, but you'll find me hanging out on Instagram
Mhm.
primarily. It's all Cari Kenzie, Carikenzie. But then I also have a podcast, which you'll be joining me on, Curiosity, Clarity, Empowerment. And that is a fun space where we get to dive into, all things that invoke that curiosity so you can find the clarity and be empowered in your journey and purpose.
Incredible. Thank you so much for all of the just beauty that you just shared into the space, the depth that you were willing to go. I think that there's so much freedom in being seen through the depth that other people go. It's like, it's almost
Yes.
like people can meet us there because you're willing to go there. And so I just so deeply appreciate you
Mm,
willing to go there, because it really opens the door for us to meet you there and to meet ourselves there.
thank you. Yeah, this was such a great conversation. I so appreciate you, dear.
I love you. You were just
All
amazing. And I cannot wait to connect with you tomorrow.
right, chat
Bye.
soon.
Thank you.